World peace and multinational peace-fighting troops.
Introduction.
The article is related to a highly regulated world army contributed to equally per capita by all nations, allowing for transparency, putting an end to costly national armies and reining back the Secret Service expenses, etc., which can instead be sent to any areas of the world to deal with isolated arising problems, for example, humanitarian crisis, help during natural and man-made disasters, etc., and to combat terrorism, piracy, warmongers, dictators, criminals, gangsters, traffickers, and revolutionary uprisings such as sectarian, anarchist, rebellions, etc., but also to enforce the worldwide birth control measures where necessary. See overpopulation. Allowing for an overall calming and settling down of state secrecy-related surveillance, bureaucracy, scandals, justice system deficits, national projects, etc., all of which has got thoroughly out of hand in terms of the oversight of investments no longer representing good value for the tax-paying public.
World peace and multinational peace-fighting troops.
Source: FIGU Open Letter 03 FIGU Offene Briefe 2008 Nr. Euro 3. German. External. As the name implies, a peace-fighting troop is a multinational composition of trained military men and women. Every country trains for this purpose, proportional to its size and population. So many men and women as peace fighters, who are peace-loving in nature and who are willing to accept responsibility for the life of others. The result of this is a gigantic peace-fighting troop, which is composed of several million people and is deployed over the entire Earth. This troop champions peace and has world peace as its highest commandment. Its duty is to protect human life and, if necessary, to defend it in personal action, even with weapons if need be, and to also deprive the guilty parties, warmongers, dictators, terrorists, criminals, gangsters, etc., of power, and make sure that no new unrest, etc., can break out in the country concerned. The large number of joint forces alone must guarantee that whenever they have to intervene in a belligerent country, they always outnumber the army members, criminals, gangsters, etc., many times over, and thus constitute a large superpower in a peacemaking form, so that no chance exists against them, should they be belligerently attacked. Communication around the globe today functions in a flash, and it has thus become possible for the commanding chiefs of such a peace-fighting troop to be constantly informed and kept abreast of things. Therefore, if unrest breaks out somewhere, or if criminality and gangsters increase, or a warmonger instigates his own army to rebellion, at least a tenfold superior force of peace fighters must instantly be mobilized and immediately dispatched to the place of unrest, via the shortest route possible, to nip the source of trouble in the bud so no war, etc., can escalate. Alone, the tremendous superior force of the fighting troop enables it to invade the troubled country from all sides, encircle the aggressors and apprehend them. At the same time, a defensive attack is started against the army and commanding chiefs, which is always proportionate to the aggressive threats of the belligerent country. A popular uprising or rampant spread of criminality and crime calls for measures other than a nuclear bomb threat. Once the source of trouble is eliminated, all weapons of the country concerned will immediately be destroyed. In the end, only the multinational peace-fighting troop has weapons for defense, and they must be stored and controlled in such a way that no power cravers, no retaliatory addicts or profit-seekers, and no criminals and gangsters have access to them. The peace-fighting troops are furthermore only able and permitted to obtain and use these weapons if necessary defense should require it. The peace-fighting troops guarantee that the would-be dictators, warmongers, criminals, gangsters and enemies against life, limb, possessions and goods will be rooted out with time by humanly justifiable but rigorous measures, through which peace and security for all life will be established worldwide and will be lasting. A peace-fighting troop has absolutely nothing to do with a renewed state of war or with a new power group on Earth, but merely performs the function of protection and of the logical use of force. As long as humanity continues to degenerate as it has for such a long time, and as the daily news today confirms over and over again, such an organization will be needed to halt such hostile actions towards humanity and life. A warmonger, belligerent party, despot, dictator, criminal or gangster cannot be brought to reason with friendly words. Alone the very idea of giving war commands or bullying, robbing and stealing from other people, sucking others dry with drugs and killing, etc., is evidence of the fact that people who do such things are sick, insane, and degenerated in their thinking and behavior in a way that is hostile towards life and humanity. In their insanity and in their position of power, etc., they are so dangerous, however, that they endanger the life of their own countrymen and the life of others, including people from foreign countries, whom they are willing to thoughtlessly, irresponsibly, and senselessly sacrifice. In most cases, the heads of state, with their entourage, are the ones who are unable to cope with the enormous stress and responsibility of an entire state, have a mental breakdown, and are power-hungry and therefore always want more and will never be satisfied. Peace can only be brought about and maintained with the logical use of force, which many people, however, are unwilling to understand. But a very good example of this is the human body itself, which is subject to given natural laws, and thus also functions accordingly. When a bacillus tries to settle down in the body, innumerable antibodies are produced which attack and destroy this disturbing factor with superior force. If this were not the case, the disease-bringing bacillus could multiply unhindered and finally attack and even destroy the entire body. The antibodies render security and protection to the living and healthy cells. It is just the same with warmongers and the multinational peace-fighting troop. If the criminal act of a head of state or a gangster, etc., is not immediately halted by a superior number of peace fighters who establish order, then all the horrible and unimaginable things which happen in abominable wars and crimes year after year in dozens of countries on Earth today can go unhindered and unpunished. In general, a fully false opinion prevails with regard to a multinational peace-fighting troop. The words "and united in one expression" annoy a lot of people, and they think of it as an army, like the one we know today, which spreads misery, hardship, fear, and terror. But that is not the case at all, since the troop members are very well-trained specialists with regard to such things as defense, peacemaking, peacekeeping, and safeguarding survival on the one hand, and with regard to abiding by the natural laws and being humane on the other. In addition, they come from so many different nations and nationalities that they could never form a power-hungry, state-related unit with viable traits of power. This way, they are multinationally obliged to perform their duties, side by side, whereby it can by no means be in their interest to allow quarrels to arise or cravings for power, etc. The peace-fighting troop fights for peace and tries to establish it to the best of its human knowledge and ability, and also as humanely as possible, or in other words, in such a way that there will be no dead, if possible, or only very few. Their task consists of protecting life and eliminating the source of unrest in order to maintain peace, stability and order, as well as security for all life and possessions and goods, and does not consist of playing would-be warriors. Every unnecessary death must be prevented under all circumstances. Whoever thinks, however, that a belligerent country could simply be invaded and leveled to the ground is no better than the instigator of a war, for he is playing in his thoughts with underhanded murder, crimes against humanity, and treacherous assassination of innocent people. That, however, is not the purpose of a multinational peace-fighting troop. Furthermore, the soldiers of the belligerent country are only carrying out their orders, forced to do so in many cases, and perhaps only out of fear of being killed themselves by their rulers or their own people. It is usually not at all the way most people think, who are uninvolved, for if a ruler or a gangster degenerates somewhere, then neither he nor his entire entourage, and by no means his entire people, who are usually not at all guilty, may be killed. The primary duty of the helping side consists, without exception, of protecting and preserving life. Death is only permissible for a single solitary reason: necessary defense. A human being is only justified in this one form to take the life of another human being. The peace-fighting troop always acts in accordance with the law of passive force. Alone the multiply superior force of the peace fighters nips the unrest in the bud. It naturally cannot be ruled out that a peace fighter may have to shoot or otherwise kill a warlike assailant to save his own life or that of a third person, or to fulfill his goal of bringing the unrest and the war or the crime, etc., under control, for it should be reckoned with that the belligerent country or the criminals, etc., are not willing to give up. But when killing must be done in this form, out of necessity, a peace fighter is acting in full defense of life, and thus not for reasons of bloodthirstiness. This way, the number of unavoidable deaths can be limited to a countable few, whereas contrary to this today, thousands of people all over the world are abused, tortured, mutilated, robbed, exploited, and innocently promoted from life to death, after they had hoped in vain for days, months, or years for justified help. Here again, the human body serves as an example. If the antibodies do not succeed in neutralizing the seat of the disease, then a foot or a leg, etc., for example, must be removed to protect the rest of the body, so the poison or the disease is unable to spread any further. Peace fighting is not the same as war, since war means murder, misery, hardship, hatred, annihilation, and destruction. Peace fighting, however, in the sense of fighting for peace, is an earnest human endeavor towards a peaceful and healthy existence for all life forms and all existence, which is indeed connected with a period of unrest, but has neutrality as its goal. This type of fighting is done in such a way that peace emerges as the goal, even if logical force is necessary to accomplish it. This is contrary to political and criminal wars, whose sole purpose is the acquisition of power, the preservation of power, and profit. The peace fight struggles with the negative and the degenerated, so that the positively balanced can finally gain the upper hand. Peace fighting creates peace and it preserves and builds, so it is not there to destroy and annihilate, which is characteristic of every politically, power and profit-oriented war, etc. However, mindless fighting cannot simply be started, because a peace fight must also be strategically well planned down to the last detail and developed in such a way that success is guaranteed. This means with respect to an intervention in the machinations, etc., of belligerent states and criminal organizations that a tremendously superior number of peace fighters will invade the country concerned, so that every resistance is useless, and so the unrest can no longer escalate and is destroyed at its source. A war, however, is not yet settled with this, for after the acts of war have been brought under control and those responsible have been rendered incapable of action and brought to account through a measure, for example, such as lifelong banishment to an absolutely secure and inescapable place, it is necessary that the people concerned are offered humanitarian help. Therefore, the entire corps of the peace-fighting troop cannot simply be withdrawn again. A certain vital part of this corps must remain in the country and make sure that no new unrest is able to break out. In addition, the new government to be appointed and also the people must be led back onto the right path through teachings, which can possibly take a long time because every human being must gain insight into the necessity of peace and humanitarianism and also into a just and good lifestyle and therefore must undergo a change of mind.
By Barbara Harnisch and Billy, Switzerland.
In an article by Achim Wolf entitled Die Stimme der Vernunft, CFIGU, Sonderbulletin Number 26 German, External, the creation of multinational peacefighting troops, according to the model described above, would require that the decision-making body of the United Nations be occupied and headed by people who are absolutely independent, non-political, and neutral, whose entire thinking is solely aligned with the creative principles of truth, knowledge, and wisdom, and who only allow themselves to be guided by reason and understanding. However, the way the UN handles things today, with its ridiculous and useless missions, nothing can be achieved with respect to pacifying the earth or its peoples, although the foremost duties of the UN are to secure world peace, heed international law, protect human rights, and promote international cooperation. Our current multinational peace troops, as defined by the UNDRO, are nothing but a farce. In an official contact conversation between Ta and Billy on August 15, 2006, Ta stated that if the overall concept is to be effective and the desired goal of world peace achieved, then this can only be done with a multinational peacefighting troop that acts in logical force and does everything necessary to disarm the armies. In principle and under all circumstances, only one multinational peacefighting troop may exist on a planet under the strictest control of the world population, and alone this peacefighting army may have combat weapons at its disposal to secure the safety of the entire planet and its population. The duty of such a multinational peacefighting force would be to nip every seed of conflict in the bud within 72 hours, to disarm the elements responsible for the warmongering crimes and armed conflicts in a resolute manner, and to take them in safe custody. The guilty must then be separated from society for life by decision and order of the world community, so they can no longer do any damage. This procedure would correspond to the creative principle of logical force in defense, whereby the guiltless may in no way be harmed, injured, or killed, nor any avoidable damage caused to their property. For further details, see Auszüge aus dem offiziellen 4.33. Kontaktgespräch in Sonderbulletin Number. Org. With such a mighty global force dedicated to securing and preserving world peace, all the horrors of war could finally be brought to an end. The duty of every human being is to protect and foster life and not to destroy it. So let's stop the senseless harming, robbing, and killing of our fellow human beings and the equally senseless destruction of our planet. Together, we can take control of our destiny with the help of global referendums and not only stop all wars, but create a truly humanitarian society on Earth, guided by truth, knowledge, wisdom, reason, and love. Pregulo.
Rebecca Walkie,